So what did you miss at Jubilee today? Well, you missed a large gathering of friends on a dark and dreary day with rain in the air. But somehow there was light in our gathering. We gathered to some terrific music and activities, things going on around the church, sharing all of that. And then we engaged in a couple of stories of banquets. Jesus tells them as parables, basically. In Luke and in Matthew, we heard both. A gathering of a great banquet, and the people who are invited aren't able to come. And so the others are invited, the riffraff. Now, Matthew's gospel, we certainly heard of violent aspects and the burning of places and wailing and gnashing of teeth, all of that stuff. But when you take the fireworks away, what we talked about today was this idea that being invited to the banquet, that being in a relationship with God, is a tricky thing. It's not always the people we expect to have relationships with God who actually have them. We see the holy and the pious, but sometimes that's just an appearance. There's no real engagement. They're not partying with Jesus or with God. The engagement isn't there. So we talked about that a little bit, and we wondered ourselves how it is sometimes that we like God, but not that way. You remember being in high school and you liked somebody, but they didn't like you that way? Well, that's the kind of thing we talked about in terms of relationship with God. It's a given that God loves us, but do we actually respond to that? Or is God's love essentially unrequited? We say that we believe in God, but do we actually live as if God believes in us? This relationship with God, does it inspire us to take risks, to love, to make waves, or does it, satisfy us so that we keep pulled into ourselves, keep ourselves safe? We wondered what the parable had to say about that. And that little bit in Matthew's gospel where the one fellow is found without the proper attire. And so the founder of the feast has him thrown out where there is darkness, wailing, and gnashing of teeth. Well, if we've been called to the banquet, if we actually are in a relationship with God, shouldn't we have changed? Shouldn't we change? And if we haven't changed, then are we really in a relationship? I think that's what we're getting down to. If we are truly Christian or people of faith, if we truly are in a relationship with God, a give and take, a listen, a growing relationship with God, then surely we must change. If we're the same as we were 5 years ago, if we're the same as we were 2 hours ago, are we really in relationship? I think the parable would suggest that no, we're not. That we are, in fact, out there in the wailing and gnashing of teeth. We're not in a relationship with God, because if we're in a relationship, then we've changed. In the parable, the fellow's wearing wedding garments. Today, in church, I wore flashy white shoes with lights that went on and off, because I didn't have those shoes before. I've changed because of my relationship. A lot of things that I think and say and do now that I may not have done yesterday or certainly 10 years ago because of my relationship with God. So that's what we reflected on today. Who is it that has a relationship with God? What does it look like? And if we have this relationship, how does it show in us? How are we changed? And if we aren't changed, maybe we need to think a little bit more about the opportunities that are passing us by. The opportunity to deepen our relationship, the opportunity to live abundantly, vitally, and to make a difference in the lives, not only of ourselves, but of others. Yeah, that's what you missed at Jubilee today. But hopefully we'll get to see you soon. And even if you weren't with us today, think about this relationship you have with God. And how have you changed? What are you holding back? Because I think the parable is inviting you into change. Anyway, until we see you, God bless.